Welcome to Retroford. This is the second episode of the technical guides we're going to be doing. This one we're going to be identifying your Zetec engine. So in front of us we've got the majority of the Zetec engines that you're likely to come across, and I'm going to run through how you identify each one. Starting with the earliest engine here, which is a silver top. Now this is a reconditioned engine, and Ford like to paint the whole thing in a sort of anthracite colour, but this is a silver top, and the easiest way for you to know that this is a silver top is that it's got 4 bolts on the water pump. So if you count the water pump bolts, we've got 4 there, as opposed to the other engines which have got 3, but I'll come back to them later on. So these would have been available in a 1600 and an 1800, and would have been fitted to Mark V Escorts. Then later on, the 2 litre was fitted to Mark I Mondeos. Now these have hydraulic lifters in them, and are the first generation of Zetecs. Now, an old engine now, and there's not too many of those left. And unlike the black tops, they weren't made in quite the same numbers that the black tops were made. So if we now go over to the blacktop engine over here, you can see that the easiest way to denote that the difference is the water pump got 3 bolt holes. So that's how you would tell if it was a blacktop, and also the water pump itself is a cartridge water pump, whereas the one on here is an integral water pump, and all the housing, the water pump and everything is integral. So more difficult to change the water pump on one of these because you need to take the cam belt off, where on these, yeah, very easy to change the water pump. So that's one of the differences. The next difference to try and identify it is that all black tops had a 2-piece sump. So these here is cast aluminium here, and then this is pressed steel, and that's the same on the ST170. So in essence, if you treat the ST170 as a black top, every component that you would want to buy to install it in a rear-wheel drive would be the same for a black top and an ST170. Now the ST170's got variable cam timing, and a lot of people mistake this for either a Duratec, because obviously it says Duratec on the top, but it was a stopgap engine really between the Zetec and the Duratec. So they badged it as a Duratec, treated as a Zetec. It's not a Duratec, it's belt driven, which none of the proper Duratecs, the aluminium Duratecs, were, and it's also got a cast iron block aluminium head. All these engines, cast iron block aluminium head. Your chain driven Duratec has got all aluminium. So the other thing you can tell is the induction on a Duratec and a Zetec are the opposite way around. So on a Zetec, the induction's always on this side and the exhaust is on this side, and that's the same for silver top or black top. So when it comes to fitting these in a rear-wheel drive application, there's some subtle differences to get them in the car. Firstly, on a silver top, you'll see, let me just grab an engine mount. Let me grab an engine mount from over here. This engine mount here, which locates on the side of the block over here, locates on all 4 bolts. Same for the other side. So I'll grab the other one of those. This also locates on all 4 bolts there. And that is the same on the Focus blacktop engines. These have also got 4 bolt holes. And the same on the other side. Again, locates on all 4 bolt holes. When we get to the ST170, these have only got 3. 1, 2, 3, and that locates the engine mount like that. So if I was to remove that, that would locate on there. So some people are worried. Sometimes we get people saying that they feel that the 3 fixings isn't strong enough, and if you look at the other side, that's 3 fixings as well. Again, it's relying on those 3. And sometimes people are nervous that that's not enough, but if you look at a 302 American V8 engine, that relies on 2 bolts. So if a 4-cylinder engine can rely on 3 bolts, I'm sure it'll be fine. So that's briefly got us to that point now where I've described the difference between the engines. Now, the things that are different as far as installing them in a rear-wheel drive application is that the alternator kit on a silver top, the bracketry we use for that, and the belt run we use for that is slightly different. Things that are the same: water manifolds fits every single one of these engines, flywheel fits every single one of these engines, crank sensor bracket, that's the same for every single engine, inlet manifold and exhaust manifold in essence are the same, although the ST170 has a slightly higher up port. But again, we do a manifold that fits that as well, but the bolt pattern in essence is the same. Exhaust manifold, that's the same. So luckily, Ford, if I spin this ignore this engine's an auto engine and it's got a flex plate on it. Now you'd remove that and replace it with a flywheel. Ford have kindly, in the back of these cranks, bored them out the right size for a Ford spigot bearing. So that means that when you come to bolt up your Type 9 typically, or even the Mazda box that we use, the spigot shaft of 15mm is common to a Type 9, and also the bolt pattern is the same, going all the way back to probably 1958 for a Ford Anglia. So they've kept that bolt pattern the same. So all the rear-wheel drive gearboxes that Ford have manufactured will bolt up to that directly if they come off a 4-cylinder engine. So in essence, we've got a black top, an ST170 and a silver top, and that shows the difference between them all. Occasionally people will ask me the question, is there enough bolts here to hold this on, because there's a part missing here, which is on a Ford Focus, that's where the starter motor lives. Your silver top Escort has got that bolt on this side there. That's incorporated in the casting, but it's plenty strong enough. We've never had a problem, and we've solved them for rally cars and everything else. One of the other questions that we get asked a lot is, I'm going to get rid of the breather on the side of it and I'm going to blank this up with a blanking plate. Well, Ford spent millions of pounds developing that so that the engine can breathe. Ford wouldn't have manufactured this if they didn't think it needed it. So what we do is not try and reinvent the wheel, then we let it breathe and we use the original Ford breather wherever we can. Now, yeah, sometimes we'll get customers that have blocked that off and it puts massive crankcase pressure on the bottom end and can lead to gasket failure. So, I mean, I think that pretty much rounds up everything that I needed to say today about the Zetecs. We'll be doing lots more videos, so please subscribe to the channel. This will be the first in the video series that we're doing on Zetecs, and this is a brief description of identifying your Zetec, and it's those few little things that just get you started on, so you know which engine you've got. And again, that's the telltale. There is no anomalies with these. If it's got 3 bolts, it's a black top or an ST170. If it's got 4, then it's the earlier engine. And should you want to change from a silver top to a black top, then all the parts that we do are interchangeable. The only thing that's really different is the alternator kit on a silver top. Our sump's interchangeable. Although this is on a one-piece aluminium sump, you remove both parts of that. You remove the aluminium part and you also move the steel part, and then our sump will fit that. And that rounds it up really. Thank you for watching, and yeah, remember to subscribe to our videos.